Oysters in from our hatchery when they're about your thumbnail size. We will grow them in these baskets for approximately 2 to 3 years, and then we'll send them to the depuration centre for depurating and then for packing for dispatch.